And the person, when he prayed, when he was reciting, he did not recite Surah Al-Fatiha. He just said, after Allahu Akbar, he said Mudahammatan, and then he performed ruku. In the ruku, he did not place his back straight properly, and then he rose. And then he did not stand properly after he rose. He went for sujood. He was praying like that. And then when it was time to say salam, after the tashahhud, he just fat the air. So he did not say salam. Immediately after his tashahhud, he fat the air to show that he had finished his salah. So the way he finished his salah was by fatting the air, not by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This was something strange, and the king said, I do not accept this. This was mischief that he wanted to do. But actually the Hanafiya believe that it's not compulsory to say salam. So after tahiyyah you can just stand up and go. But if you say salam, it's okay. If you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, it's okay. If you do not recite Surah Al-Fatiha, there's nothing wrong with it. And they have their reasons for saying all of these things. Like I said, we are not in a fiqh class, so we'll not go into the details of all of that. You know them more than I do, after all. The Hanafiya believe reciting Fatiha in Salah isn't compulsory. The Jumhur believe it is. Since the Hanafiya hinge their stand on evidences, though weak, the other ulama accept them as Muslims and pray behind their imams. The ikhtilaf, though it resembles ikhtilaf tanawwu, isn't one of it, but it occurred between the Sahaba, Tabi'un, etc. So it is never a subject of discord between Muslims, that one person feels this and the other person feels that, as long as it is within issues that have backing from the Quran, the Sunnah, or the Ijma, or the Qiyas of ulama. Sheikh al-Islam in his treatise Raf'ul Malam Anil A'immatil A'lam mentioned reasons behind such disagreements as: 1. A scholar not knowing the hadith that commands an act, and therefore holding the view that such an act does not exist or isn't obligatory. Because he did not know the hadith, it's an excuse for him. If you know the hadith, then you have to practice that which he said must not be practiced, because you know the hadith. He did not. So his not knowing the hadith will not be an evidence for you, since you know. But for him it was an evidence. A scholar understanding a text erroneously and thereby giving it an errant interpretation, like it happened in the case of the Hanafiya. They said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says فَقْرَؤُوا مَا تَيَسَّرَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ. So they understood that to mean that whatever you are able to recite in the salah will be okay. It doesn't have to be Fatiha, that you can recite just anything and that will do. But the hadith says مَنْ لَمْ يَقْرَأ بِفَاتِحَةِ الْكِتَابِ فَصَلَاتُهُ خِدَاجٌ غَيْرُ تَمَامٍ. So once you know that hadith, you know that that other reasoning is faulty. Wallahu ta'ala alam. A scholar hearing of a hadith but not trusting the source of the hadith. And this is what happened mostly to Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa in his time would say that these people that I see that are so careless about the deen, is it these same people that will be reporting a hadith that I will accept? Because he didn't like a lot of the things that were happening in his time. Al-Imam Abu Hanifa saw people as being very careless about the deen. And that's why in the ilm of hadith, actually he is da'if. His hadith, his riwayat are not accepted for some other reasons known to ulama of hadith. But in case of his being wara, his being a taqi, mu'min, salih and all that, he was a perfect gentleman. He was known as a renowned scholar and so on. But in the field of hadith he had his problems. Just like some other tabi'un also had problems in riwayat, but then they were very good people in other aspects of the deen. Then lastly, a scholar simply relying on what he saw a few of his scholars do, as Al-Imam Malik used to do. Some things Imam Malik would say he saw the people of Medina doing, and so he would use it as his evidence. Not because there is any hadith or something, but the people of Medina did it, and so he will also do it. Like you find in Muwatta, something like an athar, which says that somebody felt that even a bird he can use for aqiqah, that he can use a cock for aqiqah, if he does not have a ram. Somebody did it, and so he reported it. Somebody felt that he can do that. Not actually that he did it. And that somebody was not a Sahabi. He was not even a Tabi'i. Even if he was a Tabi'i, that he felt that he can do that, even if a Sahabi said, I can do this, it doesn't at all mean that it has become evidence. But Al-Imam Malik used to do that. And can you blame him? If my alim, somebody I trust, I saw him doing a thing, and I reported it and said, because he did it, I know he must have evidence, and so I did it too. You cannot blame him completely, can you? No, you can't. Unless he saw a hadith that was contrary to that, and yet he followed his alim, then that would be a problem. But if that is all he knew, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. If you do not know, ask the people of knowledge. So if you see your alim that you trust doing a thing and you follow it, because you had no hadith except his actions, you will not be blamed for it. So we do not blame ourselves, we do not insult ourselves over such differences that have occurred between us as a result of one reason or the other. So, but then there is the ikhtilaf that is of tabat, and some of the ones who are mentioned here fall in that category. The ikhtilaf that is you disagreeing completely with what I rely on, something going at the opposite direction of the Quran or Sunnah. This refers to two statements or opinions which contradict one another. The hadith says it is compulsory to recite Fatiha in Salah. The Hanafiya says it is not compulsory to recite Fatiha in Salah. These are statements that are disagreeing with each other. But still, even within this realm, if it is the interpretation of the hadith that led somebody to do something that seems to be contrary to the wordings of the hadith, it is still accepted as an effort in ijtihad. But then these disagreements can be on issues of creed or jurisprudence. If they are on issues of jurisprudence, they are acceptable. One disagrees with the other. Hanafiya says this, Malikiya says that, Shafi'iyya says that, Hanbaliya says that. These are acceptable because it happened even between the Sahaba, that they had different opinions on some matters. But when it comes to creed, aqidah, tawheed, there must be only one. If Allah says, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, there is only one deity worthy of worship. And then somebody says that his Sheikh is his object of worship. I heard somebody say on a video clip that was sent through WhatsApp that there was a Sheikh of theirs who was crossing Bahru Maliya, like they call it Bahru Maliya. They said they were passing on that with his student. So he gave the student the instruction that the student should always be calling the Sheikh's name. So you say, oh Sheikh Fulan, oh Sheikh Fulan, be calling my name. The Sheikh was calling Allah and the student was calling the Sheikh's name. So as they were moving, the student now later, the Sheikh did not hear his student again. He was no longer calling his name. So he didn't hear his name again. He turned and he saw that the student was drowning. And he was walking on the Bahar, on the sea, as they narrate, that he was walking on the sea, but his student was also walking, but when he stopped calling his name, the student drowned. So he put his hand in the water and brought out the student. And then he said, "What happened to you? Why are you drowning?" He said, "While I was walking, somebody appeared to me and said that I'm calling your name, that I'm doing shirk, that I should be calling the name of Allah. And that when I called the name of Allah, that's when I started drowning." When I called the name of Allah, I drowned. And he said, "But I told you to call my name. Why did you listen to that? Do not call Allah, call me." The Sheikh was telling him, if you call me, you will not drown. If you call Allah, you will drown. Subhanallah. You know, this is not Islam. And there is no way we can unite with such a person. If we were to unite with such people, then we would be uniting with who? With the Christians. Because they have a reason for saying there are three gods too. They will tell you that what they actually mean is that there is one God, but there are three in flesh. But Jesus came to this world as God also. Just like the explanations that those people will have when they say such things. That they say there are explanations but you will not understand. I don't ever want to understand that. Malikiya believes, for instance, that if an animal falls from a hill and is on the verge of death, resulting from injuries sustained, such an animal shouldn't be slaughtered. You know that if you're driving your car and you hit a ramp and it's about to die but it has not died, the Malikiya says nobody should slaughter that ram. Allow it to die. If you slaughter it, you are eating carrion, because it would have died all the same if you did not slaughter it. So leave it to die. Don't eat that one. That one has become carrion. This aspect of Malikiya, I think people have stopped practicing these ones. Even the Malikiya, I don't know anybody who practices that now. Very few people. Do you still know the Malikis who practice this? Amir, do you still know Malikis who practice this in this town? Very few. Or maybe there are none at all. But this is what Malikiya says. Within the same school of Malikiya, some ulama like Ibn al-Qasim disagreed and said no. And you know, it is based on the ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah that they all disagree. The same ayah. The same ayah that they disagreed on. Why? They said the istithna in that ayah is munqati. Some says no, it's muttasil. And that's where they disagree. So it's on technicalities. The use of Arabic to interpret the verse. The same verse gave them different meanings. So this kind of disagreement is acceptable, and because it says a part and parcel of jurisprudence. It is anti-Islam to make inflammatory or derogatory statements on those who hold a contrary view, since the disagreements, though sharp, emanate from knowledge based on analogies. Knowledge-based analogies. An ugly example of this is the insistence of a preacher in northern Nigeria that abstaining from cutting nails, trimming the mustache, and shaving the armpit and pubic hair is a condemnable bid'ah. Abstaining from all of these in the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah for one who intends to perform the udhiyah. He says it's a bid'ah to abstain from all of those, because he does not believe in the hadith that said so. He believes that the hadith was misquoted, that Imam Muslim made a mistake in his book, that hadith does not mean what people take it to be. So for him, it is a bid'ah. Somebody like Al-Imam Muslim wrote that book how many years ago? The Muslims after him all agreed with that book. The Ahlul Sunnah have all submitted to that book. All the Sunnis, even the Sufiya and all that, everybody has agreed with that book as being an authentic book. The Malikis that existed in that time agreed with the hadith as authentic hadith, even though they disagree with the interpretations of some of them. But then they agreed with them. Now somebody is appearing to say it's a bid'ah completely, what others see as sunnah. Though Imam Muslim authenticated the hadith which recommended those as sunnah, based on his analogies and blind followership of his school of thought, the preacher is causing unnecessary tension between Muslims. So ulama should mind their utterances on such issues. That's why we must go back to the knowledge of the Sharia and properly put these things in perspectives. So the ulama should go and dust up books such as the books that talk about the four madhahib, the one written by is it Ibn Rushd? What is that one called now? I've forgotten the name of the book. Huh? What did he call it? Bidayatul Mujtahid wa Nihayatul Muqtasid. We should read such books and many other books like that one, Al-Fiqh al-Madahib al-Arba'a and things like that, to see that ulama before us have disagreed. Ibn Abd al-Barr wrote a book on ilm wa fadlu, and in that book he also mentioned the ikhtilafat between Sahaba, between Tabi'un and Tabi'ut Tabi'in. He wrote on all those issues. It's not in our generation that those started. The ulama should go and dust up those books, read them, understand them properly, and know what to teach their followers, so that their followers will be ala basira. That these are issues that have been disagreed upon by the generations before us, and they all respected each other despite their disagreements. We should not come and make these things new and begin to split the Ummah on issues that others before us loved each other even despite their disagreements. Also, we find brothers making inflammatory declarations against their brethren on issues that are strictly of their own deductions, not even explicit scripture. There are issues that you don't even have any hadith on them. They are new issues that you can only do qiyas. You can only do ijtihad on them. If your ijtihad disagrees with the ijtihad of another person, do not use such an issue to make statements that are inflammatory about others. For example, it is unnecessary for any division to exist between those who camp pupils and students during vacations and those who feel it is not proper. You have camps for students, IBC camps. Some now say it is bid'ah and their manhaj is not the same with the manhaj of those who do it. And so whoever does it, you don't even sleep with such a person, you don't eat with him, you don't shake his hand. Subhanallah. Surprisingly, Sheikh Muhammad Salih Al-Uthaymeen was asked concerning the camping, and he said it's a beautiful thing that they do it in Saudi. They come students during the break, they do this and that, and then they say, but what? What hadith do you have on the prevention of camping or on camping? What hadith do you have on when to preach and when not to preach? If you have such a hadith that you should not preach at such and such a time, good, we will not preach at such a time. But if you don't, do not tell people preach this time, do not preach the other time. What you do in camping is preaching to people, da'wah to people at their convenience. So whatever will be convenient is what you will do at such a time. The issue of bid'ah does not come into such matters. And so people should not begin to create their own religion in the name of trying to protect the sunnah. Though their opinions are contrary, the matter is of ijtihad, which cannot be overruled by just anyone. Individuals must know their limits concerning this matter. So as an individual, stop making pronouncements that have to do with the Sharia. This is another way that we can really curb our disunity. Know that as an individual, your perception of any issue is personal. It does not become authority. And so you have no right to use it to judge others. If there are judgments that are already in books, fine. You can dust them up and bring them and say, this is the judgment that Imam Malik passed. This is the judgment that Hassan al-Basri passed. This is the thing that so and so said on such and such a matter. And it is done. Or the hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, or Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, or Abdullah ibn Abbas, and so on. They said this, they said that. Umar bin Khattab, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. If you have those, fine. If you do not, if it is based on your ijtihad, or the ijtihad of your alim, accept the ijtihad of another person as probably being more correct than yours. Al-Imam al-Shafi'i used to say, there was never a time I argued with anyone concerning any matter, except that I would wish that the truth would emerge from him and I will follow him. So, you do not insist that the truth has to come from you. You do not insist that the truth is what you say, and what others say will not be the truth. Even when you understand that they are wrong, say to yourself that this is the way I understand. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.